What's up, everybody? It's Bob's Three-Toed Warriors. We're going to talk about players that you want to avoid in 2020, and that show is going to start right now. Welcome back. I haven't seen you in like 8 seconds. It's been so long. So it's Word on the Streets, Season 1. It's episode roughly 40. I got to count. I don't know. I think I've lost count. It's been a crazy week. That happens. So we're going to be talking about players that you want to avoid in 2020. Now, there's 5 of us on this show. I'm going to introduce these fantastic guys in just a second. But we all are going to like different players or dislike different players for different reasons. And we're going to talk about why. So I'm going to go around the board here. John, Dynasty Coach A, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where your show, where you can be found, what you got going on? Let's hear it.
Well, thank you for having me on first and foremost.
Absolutely.
I am very proud to say I was Bob's first ever guest, so none of y'all can take that from me.
He was my first. He was my first.
I was his first.
You always remember your first.
Yeah, that's right. So I appreciate that. I'm with the Monocle Dynasty podcast and the Take It or Leave It podcast and the Debbie Devotional podcast. And like I told Nick on Friday, I'll probably have another podcast before the end of the show. So who even knows? I love talking football. I love it. It's just each show kind of breeds another one. You start getting new ideas, and then you just come up with something else. It's a little bit of everything. Obviously, like I said, Debbie, the Take It or Leave It is a solo pods. It's just like quick one hitters on a player, and then obviously the main show, the Monocle Dynasty. And we're going over everything, dynasty values, players, trades, all that kind of good stuff.
Sweet. Nick, kick it over to you, sir.
All right. Well, first off, I just wanted to thank you for letting me on again. Big incentive for me to come on tonight. I've actually been live with all of you except for Kyle, and ironically, I have a live draft on Saturday with Kyle, and I had to make sure that I wasn't getting catfished or anything, so I'm glad I got to talk to Kyle. He seems all right. My wife's like, "You're going to some random guy's basement for a draft," and I was like, "Yeah, I am. Sounds like a good idea." But yeah, that was an incentive right there. But yep, I'm Nick from P2W Fantasy. Everything we do is through Twitter, just at P2W Fantasy. Released an article today. We usually go live once or twice a week, just pump out content, myself and 2 others. But yeah, thanks again for having me on. Always nice to talk to you guys.
No problem. And so you're safe with Kyle, but it's not Kyle's basement you're going to. Watch how many drinks you have. You're going to Henry's basement. So
yeah. We don't have a good time.
All right, Kevin, let's kick it over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. You can get me at Hammercast. I write a lot of Debbie stuff for them, and then some Dynasty stuff. And then I have a new podcast I started. It's going pretty well. It's called Beyond the Bounce. It's for coaching. I coach varsity basketball and football and those things. And we just had Kelly Graves on, #1 coach from Oregon women's basketball, on our last podcast. So it's been a lot of fun. So I appreciate getting on here and talking. I teach, so it's nice to get away. I've had a rough couple weeks, so it's been a nightmare. Man. So I just need to drink. I need to drink a lot, and I need to just talk football so I can forget about it.
That's awesome. And Henry was actually on the in the comments here. He said, "That's my basement. This is Samoan." There you go. So that's got to watch out for. So all right. And then last but not least, let's kick it over to Kyle.
Man, thanks for having me again, Bob. I wasn't your first guest, but you weren't my first guest either, so take that. No, man, just still dropping episodes of the Fantasy Football Smackdown. You formerly are the Fantasy Football Fellas, but man, just been having a lot of fun with that show over the last 2-3 months, and just looking forward to 2020, man. I drop articles a couple times a month for Fantasy Pros and Ball Blast Football. So you can follow me on Twitter at KyleFFFellas and find all that content over there, man. But just, yeah, man, really looking forward to this. Had to jump at the opportunity to come hang out with you guys for a bit.
Awesome. Love it. I guess before we kick into the show, I'm going to tell y'all where I can be found on Twitter at Bob's Three-Toed, and on YouTube at Bob's Three-Toed Warriors, and then on Facebook, Word on Streets Fantasy Football group. But I'm going to break into the announcement because I just want to get this out the way. So it's going to seem a little weird. Why is he doing this? He's doing
Smells like football, baby.
Yeah, boy.
Oh, snap. That was a second intro we just did in the show. And that's because starting here in the regular season, Kyle and here are going to join up for a little collaborative. We're going to record our waiver wire and our sit start shows together, the 3 shows during the week. And then we'll simulcast them. I think that's maybe the technical term. I don't know, on both of our channels for those who, follow and listen along on those. We get together, have some good content. We've known each other for over a decade here, working on the second decade. He's not that old. I knew him when he was still in high school. And no, I'm not a pedophile.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Everybody's still doubting it. They're taking notes.
I gotta go, guys. Yeah. Oops.
Yeah. So that'll be good stuff. The live streams will continue to be on Tuesdays from now until forever, or until it changes. So, and the replay of that will probably still be on Saturdays, TBD. So that's a little fun announcement we have. And somebody said, "Hell yeah, about time." Yeah, it is. Shut up, Henry. All right. So let's get into these players we want to avoid in 2020. Not everybody has finished their drafts yet. Some people still have drafts. Some people made draft picks, might have some of these guys on their team, and maybe they can go trade them for someone better that they should have drafted. So, hey, just some tips there. All right. So knowing which players to avoid in your draft is, to me, just as important as knowing which players to draft is just as important as knowing which players not to draft. Both directions. It's plays in key. You don't want to grab a guy that's just not good for your team. So without using names, I want you guys to just give one reason each why you would avoid a player without giving a name. Go around, John.
I mean, the biggest thing for me is usually ADP. I mean, that's, I guess that's like the number one.
Okay. I can buy that completely. Nick?
Maybe either injury history or maybe lack of volume.
Okay. I'm trying to steal one from the other guys here. Kevin?
Yeah, for me, it's all about ADP and value, and then where am I going to get a guy at, depending on what he can produce for my team. That's kind of where I'm at.
Okay. Kyle?
Yeah, this guy's nailed it. It's ADP, man. If there's guys I don't like, but if they're going in the 12th, 11th, or 11th, 12th round, I'll take a stab at them, right? So
Sure.
It's all just value, and there's guys I like, but I hate where their values are at, so I won't take them.
Yeah, and I'll add into some of the reasons that cause that value to be off for me are terrible situations, team, quarterback, some things like that. Maybe they're starting to Frank Gore in their career and sunset a little there. Maybe they're due for some serious regression from last year. I can think of a couple players off the top of my head that could be good for that for this year, or maybe just too much damn hype because that just pushes up the ADP. So it ties into really what y'all are saying, but I think he's in there big. So, Kevin, you got to the show doc first, so you get first dibs, and then we'll swing around not in the order of the screen, but in the order of my page because that makes it easier for me. So, Kevin, you went with number one. You went Kenyon Drake, 17 ADP. I'm using half PPR on Fantasy Pros. That's what I'm using. The general idea is still going to be about the same, probably wherever you look, but. So,
yeah. So, I know there's some Kenyon Drake people out there that love him. So I know, I've just kind of been away from him. Just a couple reasons. For one, he finds himself in that tier with Miles Sanders, Chubb, Jacobs, Eckler, and Jones. So he's going to be in that tier. I would take all those guys above him, to be honest. If I'm drafting, I'm taking all those guys. I mean, I got an argument last night with somebody about Aaron Jones, and he said, well, he's going to regress. Well, his regression is still going to be more than what Drake's going to give you, more than likely, even if he has a touchdown regression. I don't care how big AJ Dillon's hamstrings are. It's not gonna do too much for me. I'm not that worried about Dillon. And so for me with Drake too, I mean, I would even argue maybe Fournette. Fournette's a guy that I've been targeting as well. Sometimes it depends on where you're at in the draft. He might be more of a value than going, because I think Drake's going at the beginning of the second round sometimes, running back 10-ish, somewhere in there. That's kind of where he's at. I'm not taking him there because that's too high of a value for me. Too high of he needs to really produce then. And if you look at his career, and I've looked at his career multiple times because I've had tons of arguments about this. I mean, the most rushing yards he's had is 839, I think, somewhere in there. Receiving, he has a receiving threat, but he's never even shown in college. He's never been the guy. He's never been that dude at whatever team he's at. and then and then this is before the walking boot thing. So I'm not even going off.
I was going to that was coming up. So
like, that wasn't even like, I've been a big thing about Drake for a long time. And then the walking boot, and I'm just like, okay, well, it just shows that I just don't know if I trust him. I've been getting Chase Edmonds and Benjamin in a lot of my leagues at the later end, just because I think those guys are going to produce pretty well this year for him. I just don't think Drake's going to be able to give you what you need for the value that you have to take him at the ADP. Like if he's in the third or fourth, sure. I mean, what the hell? You might as well take him if he's your third running back. But if he's your solid number 2 running back, or even the first one, if you take a receiver first round, then you're going to be in a world of hurt. That's just kind of my opinion.
Yeah. So I can dig that completely. And real quick on the walking boot, he says it's not a big deal. He's not injured, whatever. It's just for maintenance or just a whatever. You know what? Is that like rolling up one pant leg or something? Just looks cool wearing one walking boot. If it's really for maintenance and make you better, why aren't you wearing 2 of them? You don't want a good right leg and a good left leg? You got bullshit out of here. All right. So if you guys strongly disagree with someone's take, cool. We'll chime in, but as long as we're all somewhat similar and it's no big deal. Otherwise, we'll never get through our 16. But I'm cool with that. If y'all are cool with that, and we'll slide over to.
I'm 100% on board.
Quick counter is that my pinned tweet on Twitter, Kenyon Drake's giving P2W Fantasy a shout out. So
see, there you go. You can't drop your boy.
I'm staying out of this.
Okay. Can't lose that endorsement.
Like it.
That's pretty cool.
We found a homer.
Cool. All right. Speaking of P2W, let's kick it over to you, Nick, with Mr. Doubt. I got Dalvin Cook on the show doc here.
Feel David Johnson there too. No, Dalvin Cook. Yeah. Obviously we know about some of the injury history. I wrote down the specifics, but just very brief from 2019 through 2014. It seems like every year there's an injury going down the list: a shoulder injury, hamstring strain, a hamstring sprain, ACL tear, shoulder labrum tear, ankle sprain, and another shoulder and labrum tear. And
that's through what, 15 years of NFL history?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Dr. Edwin Porras, you guys probably follow him on Twitter, the at FB injury doc. He was quoted one time saying, each time he dislocates a shoulder, further damage is caused to the joint and bone. Another dislocation of either shoulder could lead to 2 to 3 weeks of missed time at best and end his season immediately at worst. So First red flag for me is all these injuries in the past, missed games. The second one now is Matthew Berry was just talking on a live stream last week about how Adam Schefter said, if they don't reach a deal with Dalvin, it's a major pause for drafting him. And we look back to Le'Veon Bell when he held out. Everything seemed like, you know what, he's talking about week 1. I think he's still going to play. And then he held out. So I wouldn't count out that there's still a chance he does hold out. So for me, if I'm going to invest, I wrote down ADP 6. I think, Bob, you had 7.
Yeah, it's close enough. Yeah.
If I'm going to be the 1-6, 1-7, and I'm going to take a Dalvin Cook with these major red flags for me, and you miss out because he either is hurt or he holds out, that's a major hit and blow to your team, rather than taking a guy like maybe Derrick Henry where you're like, oh, well, he doesn't catch a lot of balls. I'd rather have that red flag than these other 2 I'm talking about. So Dalvin Cook for me, I'm not taking that 1-6, 1-7 draft pick damage to my team with these 2 big red flags.
Okay. If you do, you probably want to grab Madison, no?
His price tag is hefty too. That's the problem. Like when you're talking about with some of these other guys that are in the first round, if you want their handcuff, they're going, way double digits. Madison's sometimes going around. I've seen him going around 7, goes around 8, I think in ADP. It's pricey. Yeah,
that's another starter you can grab right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I like it. Let's slip over to the monocle and let's talk about Patrick Mahomes. My wife is watching the show. She's probably going to chime in and yell at you, but that's okay.
Hey, you know what? As a fan, not of the team, but as of the player, like I want to yell at myself. But when you're looking at the 15th overall player, I can't do it. When you're talking about 1 QB, if you're talking about super flex or 2 QB, then we can talk. But in 1 QB, I'm not taking a quarterback, regardless of the quarterback. And especially, I know I don't want to I don't want to put it out there before it comes out, but like I know somebody later on is going to be throwing out a quarterback that is one of my biggest players, like one of my favorite players, and so I'd be taking them much higher, and I would be taking Mahomes much lower. But the whole point is I'll never get Mahomes because I'm not taking somebody at when you have Josh Jacobs, Chris Godwin, CH, Miles Sanders, like those kind of players going behind him. Like I want those players all day long. Like those are the players that are going to win your league. Sure. Patrick Mahomes can win your league if you have those players, but like he's not going to win your league if you just have a bunch of garbage, like Madison and Pollard, in the 7th and 8th rounds,
Yeah, because you don't get to take that stud running back wide receiver because you took the quarterback instead.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Let's slip down to Kyle and let's just I think you can just say echo, change name. And add this one particular thing you'll probably add, but go for it.
It's Lamar Jackson. I mean, it's the same for the same reasons John mentioned. The ADP is just crazy. These guys, Mahomes and Jackson, were league winners over the last 2 seasons because you got them late in your drafts, not because you drafted them in the 2nd or 3rd round. You've already just destroyed your return on investment because you're just taking them too early. You have to go with a different position there. You have to. If it's super flex, obviously adjust accordingly. Everyone knows that, but in one quarterback leagues, there's just no reason to reach on either of these guys. Jackson's touchdown percentage last year was insane through the roof, over 8%. That's going to come down. He's not leading the league in touchdowns. He's probably going to be closer to 25, 26 passing touchdowns, which is still going to probably put him at QB2 based off the rushing. But when you look at what you have to give up the other positions, just no way you can take either of these QBs. It's hard enough going receiver over those early running backs. You're talking going a quarterback over them, you can get out of here.
Yeah, and I'll give you all my favorite 2 stats for Lamar Jackson, the dual threat quarterback, running back. He threw for less yards in the same 15 games as Mitch Trubisky, ouch, and he threw for less yards in 3 more games than Kyle Allen had. Who? Kyle Allen. Damn. So one side, if the running game does go down, you got to hope the passing game comes up. But those running points are worth so much more for Lamar. So I can definitely buy that. Let's go to Bob. Bob, who you got? I've got Derrick Henry. Thank you very much.
Hell of a toss.
I'm just reading the words.
Oh, yeah.
Good night, Santiago. He's 6. He's 6 in my book. And much like I can see Lamar regressing, I see Derrick Henry regressing. I don't see him having that huge break-off runs at the end of every 4th quarter and all those big stats he had. I just don't see it being the same for him. He has a capable back behind him that can do some work as well. I think they're going to have to go to more passing games, more passing, slide that way a little more than the running. But I know they do like to run. And there was a report today that, he's starting to catch the ball. Well, there was one of those for David Montgomery last year too. So, not David Montgomery, his predecessor 2 years ago. Sorry,
Jordan Howard.
Yeah, because he was working on the machine to practice his reception. So, yeah, I don't buy it at all, and I'm going to let him go by to the next guy and take someone else I like better. So that's just me though. That's the whole team for me. Tennessee, I don't love how uber efficient they are, but you could say the same thing about Seattle every year, Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf, and we kind of expect them to do the same thing. So, but they've done it multiple.
You said jump in if
jump
you're
in. Okay,
heavily opposed to it.
Give me up, baby.
Get him, John.
All right. I just want to know real quick, like how far are you dropping him? Because if it's a spot or two and you're just like, I'm not going to get him because he's at 6, then I can deal with it. But if you're talking about dropping him out like out of the 2nd round even or something like that, then
he's like, I don't think I dropped him that hard. But I will pull up my rankings, and he is damn. I was not friendly. Why don't y'all go on to the next? Well, no, I'll just.
Tell me that workout video didn't change your mind, like every other player in the league.
Yeah, right.
Running back ranking.
Didn't you see him running up the hill? I mean, come on.
Yeah,
these guys
lots of hills in the NFL.
Fantasy Twitter's gonna be like, that's it.
But if there ever was a hill, he wouldn't have a problem with it. That's
true. Dang.
Try to run up him.
Wait, who am I looking for? I'm
Derrick
looking for Derrick Henry. Thank you.
It was your guy.
So more points to counter Henry is like, what more does he have to do? He didn't catch balls last season, And he was still the running back. I think what he ended up as the running back 5 in PPR, maybe the running back 6. So I mean, you can say you're drafting him at his ceiling, which is fine. But I mean, even if he just catches a few more balls, Darrington Evans is already hurt and has fumbling issues in camp. Now, I mean, I don't want to take that and just be like, oh, Darrington Evans is done. But I mean, the fact that he's hurt, definitely doesn't help anything. And I mean, they got rid of Dion Lewis. Darrington Evans, if you look at his profile, isn't really a receiving back. So I think at the very least, like, they learned their lesson in not using Henry properly. And I mean, that might not mean that he's going to go out there and catch 70 balls this year or anything like that. But I mean, he caught like 19 last season. So if he can just catch 30, that's going to be a pretty decent jump for him. And we've seen that he can take those to the house and score, 90-yard touchdowns on them. Now, you're saying that you don't expect that to happen, but when you have the 247-pound, behemoth running at you, you tell me you're going to stop him on a 90-yard run.
That's scary. I get it. I don't know what the hell just happened to my sheet. All the numbers are gone. I had him in the second round. So not out of the second round, but I had him into the second round. And we'll move on. And when I find it, we'll come back to it because I don't want to stall the show for this. I'm stalling, guys. You got me sweating on the ropes. We'll go back to Kevin and David Johnson.
Yeah, I don't want David Johnson on my team. He just like, I'm not wasting a pick on him. I just think that he's burned so many. I mean, he burned me 2 years ago, but I don't want him where he's at. I just don't want to deal with it. I mean, he's going to have plenty of volume in Houston. I think if he stays healthy, he should be pretty good. I just worry about him staying healthy. I'm just concerned with, he looked pretty done last year. Like when you watched him play, he just doesn't look like the same running back that he has been in the past. And so when you're looking at his ADP and value and stuff, I'd rather take, Mark Ingram. He's getting looked. I know I'm a big Dobbins guy, but Mark Ingram is still there. And I would still probably take Ingram. I know some people are not big on David Montgomery, but I think I'd rather take David Montgomery in redraft and see, hopefully he breaks through. Cause I don't necessarily, we maybe can see a better David Montgomery. I don't know if we're going to see a better David Johnson. I just don't think we'll see that. So in terms of the value, Devin Singletary, maybe. I know he's going down there. After that tier, it gets kind of murky, but according to Fantasy Pros, Jonathan Taylor's going behind David Johnson. So, I mean, to me, I'd rather have those guys. I just don't think Johnson's going to stay healthy, and I just don't think he's the same running back as he was. They got Duke Johnson there. I saw something funny on Twitter. They're like, people are going to love when they see Johnson score a touchdown, but it's going to be Duke Johnson, not David.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I just don't want it. I just don't want him on my team. I'm just going to take somebody else and just roll somebody else.
That's fair. Anybody disagree, agree? No?
Well, do you really think that Jonathan – I have no issues with the take whatsoever, but do you really think that Jonathan Taylor's going to go after David Johnson? Like, there's no way that's happening, right?
Well, as Fantasy Pro says it is, I don't think it would, but I'm just – in terms of the rankings, like, if that's happening, you need to get in a better league. But at the same time, like, you got to –
No, you need to stay in that league.
Yeah,
take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's true. But if he's in that tier, though, I just don't see him being that. He should be in, like, the next tier or based on his value where he's going right now.
I won't be using my personal ranking because somehow, even though it only says 0.1, it's given 1,000 points for the season. So something broke in my spreadsheet. I will not be using that.
No, just roll with it, man.
So, just roll with it. No, we won't do that. I was sitting there trying to fix it. I couldn't. So, all right. So that was Mr. David Johnson. This next one, oh no, sorry. Next one, P2W is Chris Godwin, 18th off the board.
Yeah, so I'll probably make a lot of people mad saying that, but I just think that there's so many different factors on this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team as a whole that I don't want to draft Godwin as like I wrote down probably different ADP, but like the wide receiver 6. I don't see Godwin having that wide receiver 2 year that he did this past year. Looking at the past year, Jameis Winston tying the league in attempts with 626. I mean, we saw them chasing games, slinging balls down the field. Chris Godwin was 16th, I wrote down, in receptions, but 3rd in yards, so got a ton of yards. What what people don't talk about enough is Tampa Bay trending upward as far as their defense goes, bringing back 11 out of the 12 top guys. You had Levante David, some young guys like Antoine Winfield and Vita Vey. There's a couple more names on that list. Third in forced fumbles, seventh in sacks. That defense was trending up. So I don't know if they're going to be chasing as many games as they did last year. I also have Tom Brady coming in. Tom Brady does not care about his individual stats, in my opinion. I think he cares about winning games. And when he's going to be leading that offense, I can see Tom Brady spreading out the ball a little bit more. Last year, Godwin 121 targets, Evans 118. Then the drop-off was 69. So it was like two guys swallowing up almost everything. I see Tom Brady managing an offense that has a win-focused mentality. He's going to use his tight ends. He's going to use Gronk. I can see O.J. Howard having an upswing in his year. Whoever that third wide receiver is going to be, if it's Tyler Johnson or Scotty Miller or whoever else is in the mix there. They got backs that are being trained to catch the ball. So I don't foresee Godwin having the same target share. I don't see the game script being in favor of him having that massive wide receiver 2 overall finish that he did last year. I'd rather take guys like I wrote down, and I know it's on somebody else's list. I don't want to have a giveaway here, but I'd rather have a guy like Kenny Galladay, DJ Moore, Allen Robinson, and even potentially in a bounce back year for Juju Smith-Schuster above Chris Godwin for me. I'm just a lot lower on him because of these changes to the team, the changes in the game script. So I'm out on Chris Godwin at that ADP.
I can buy it. Let's slide on over to the monocle and Mr. Galladay. Hurting my baby feelings right there. You hurt my baby feelings.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think you like this one too much. But once again, you'll find if you listen to my show or even just listening to this one, you'll figure out pretty quickly. I just don't like the ADP. And with Galladay,
25 is what I have him down for here in half point. So
yeah, but I mean, more importantly, it's wide receiver 7. And I did a take it or leave it pod. Like I said, it's just a little solo pod, quick. They're like 10, 15 minutes about Kenny Galladay a little bit earlier in the season, and it basically like the conclusion was I have him finishing the season somewhere around like wide receiver 13. Now that's not a huge difference, but when you're talking about like the first couple of rounds, like a 6-spot difference could be. I mean, the wide receiver 13 isn't going until pick 32. So you're talking about 7-spot difference. I mean, you're going in now into a different round almost. And so there's just guys going behind him. And actually I wrote it down. I guess I should actually look at it. There's guys like Mike Evans, DJ Moore, Allen Robinson. And I know somebody, I forget who it was on the show sheet, but somebody does not like Amari Cooper, but I would take Amari Cooper over him as well.
I think it says Amari Pooper.
Yeah, that's what it was. That was me. But I would take all those guys over him. So I mean, even beyond the ADP, like there's just guys that I would take over him. So it's not that he's a terrible player or anything. I mean, I guess the biggest thing, to make an actual argument besides ADP is that it's not like a true he's the number one situation. Like people want to think that it's that, but it's really like a 1A, 1B kind of deal with him and Marvin Jones. And I mean, we could see some progression from Hawkinson, and obviously like people are pretty excited about Swift. So I mean, if all of that kind of happens, then I don't see how he's going to be wide receiver 7. Add on top of that, like a really high yards per reception, like extremely high, like unbelievably high, much higher than Calvin Johnson ever got, and then an extremely high touchdown rate. And I see a lot of regression. And then, like I said, with everything else, so I don't see Galladay being wide receiver 7. But I could see him being wide receiver 13. That's not that crazy. I'm just not drafting him there.
I can dig it. I don't like to take him as my first quarterback, so that's early, very, very early in the third round.
I wouldn't want to take him as my first quarterback either.
Yeah. I caught it. I was like, are we letting that happen? Okay. My first wide receiver. But if I swing around and grab a stud running back in the first round and pick up another wide receiver I like that feels a little more consistent, I like his upside as my second wide receiver. But if I went running back, yeah, I'm going to have to let him slide by for someone who feels a little more consistent to me, even though I love saying Galladay. All right, let's go over to Kyle and his boy,
I can dig
Melvin Gordon on this list. Melvin Gordon on this list. This has been a long time. I couldn't see this happening for you.
You just the situation, and we talked about, and I think somebody mentioned it. I apologize too, but I've talked about it on the SmackDown too. Is like for this season, continuity is a big piece that I'm looking for in these offenses. And when it might have been Bob, but regardless, like when you're talking about teams coming in, new coaching staffs, new players to new teams, like those are always difficult situations. And then we're talking about a shortened and condensed offseason. I'm just as tired of hearing about that as everybody else, but it's a factor. I like, Melvin Gordon in the past when he was in LA, this team would just give him the ball at 4 times if they had to let him score. And I'm just not sure that that's going to be the case in Denver. Now, the good thing about Philip Lindsay is that he's more of a between the 20s type player. That's where he's seen most of his workload over the course of his first 2 seasons. But and the fact that Melvin Gordon is a fine pass catcher should help him out here. But it's kind of similar to what John was saying again. Like, I just don't like the ADP. I think for me, anybody when you're talking about those rounds 3, 4, 5 running backs, I just don't want them. So if you're taking your top 2 running backs, you don't have to worry about these guys. Your RB3. I'm just going to wait. I'll take Cam Akers. I'll take DeAndre Swift. I'll take Matt Breida 5 rounds later. I don't care. Like I'd rather just take the shot on those guys and pick up the wide receivers in that 3rd, 4th round range that I really, really like. I've been in drafts where I go, wide receiver, tight end, just because I don't like the running backs that end up getting to me, and I'll still skip over these guys. I think their upside is really capped. And when you're drafting those guys, to me, it really feels you're like, I'm just filling a roster spot. And at that point, I won't draft like that. So for me, Melvin, I think is fine. I think he has a okay floor because I think he will see some receptions and the goal line work. I'm just a little bit worried about, the yardage being there and this offense not being as good as what he's seen in LA in the past.
Okay. Anybody opposed to that? Or okay.
Good. No, I'm just kidding. Boom. It hurts, dude. I love Melvin, man. He's been my boy for so long, and
I know that's why I said that
on
on
the touchdown regression every year, and it never happened. But I think this might be the year. Finally, just new place. It's going to be
too many question marks.
Yeah.
Too many question
All
marks.
right, I'm sliding over to a wide receiver here. I'm going with Odell Beckham Jr., the diva himself. Landry, assuming he's healthy. Okay, sure. Hooper. And a team that sounds like they want to run the ball with 2 stud running backs on the field, although one might be getting out there in the passing game some more. I think he has a hard time etching out the play he needs to be worth the draft pick, although you can kind of get him late. I have him draft wide receiver 18, and ADP has him going around 27. So I guess, it's probably not bad there. I still fear taking him, even though I have him statted out to finish that high. I still fear personally taking him, just because that seems a little.
You have him at wide receiver 18.
I do. If my crap is right, my running backs are still jacked up because, because Nick Chubb is going to have 15,000 points.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Mark it down.
Beckham is 27th overall. That makes him wide receiver 9, though. And, so, yeah, I
still don't like him.
To me, that is extremely rich for a guy that is going to be in an offense we don't know.
What you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Which is why I won't be able to get him because I have him where I have him. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on OBJ.
He's a name at this point, and some of the people that don't pay as much of attention, like they're going to look at the name and they say, it's OBJ. I got to draft him. And don't get me wrong. I think he's actually going to be better this year than he was last year. But it's still going to be a low volume offense. So I don't know that I would be, drafting. I'm definitely not drafting him at wide receiver 9. There's no way. That's essentially drafting that as absolute ceiling, I would assume. Yeah. And I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I definitely get behind that and agree with that there. Let's head up to the top. It's another one of my boys, Tyler Higbee.
Yeah, so Tyler Higbee, I think for me, he kind of lands in that no man's land in the draft. Yes. The area I don't want to take a tight end at. So, that's why I kind of, when I look at those guys like Waller, Ingram, Henry, Higbee, they're all kind of the same in terms of, do I want to waste draft capital on a tight end like that? I think the tight ends are deep, like we've kind of all said and talked about. But if I'm not getting Kels, Kittle, or maybe Andrews, it just kind of depends where Andrews gets taken. I'm not going to get a tight end until I go all the way down to like Hawkinson, who I think is going to be better as long as his ankle's okay. My boy Jarwin, if I can grab him later. Or even, some of those other guys, Noah Fant, those type of guys. I would just much rather take better players in that 6 to 8 range, the rounds, wherever it tends to go. And then I would just grab a running back or a wide receiver because I feel like there's more depth at the position for tight ends this year than there has been in the past. I'm not a big Jared Goff guy. That's not my guy at all. That's my boy Nick's guy. That's not my guy.
Nick's like, yeah.
I feel like, I just don't see it. I don't know if, with the talent there, Akers is going to be there. Everett's back. He's not injured. And I'm not a big Everett guy either. I'm not on that bandwagon. I just think the targets may not be there for him. And based on that value, that's just a guy that I like to avoid if I can, and just grab another tight end that could probably give you the same production, but you're going to get a better player in those middle rounds by doing that.
Quick fun fact: I sold Tyler Higbee at the end of the season for the 1-8 and drafted CeeDee Lamb there. So I got league for CeeDee Lamb.
That's amazing.
Oh,
the Higbee hype is insane. I have no issues with the Higbee, hate or anything like that, or just saying like avoid him in those rounds. But Nick, can we tag team him here and say like Jared Goff is gonna just completely go off this season?
I'll be your manager on the side because I'm waving the Goff flag like a madman as well. So
I moved him up. I just did my hot takes. Maybe I should maybe I should have done this one. But I just moved him up to my quarterback 7 for this year.
Yeah.
Ooh. I don't have him that high, but I do have him pretty high. Everybody who talks about Cooper Kupp's going to be great and Robert Woods is going to be great. And then the guys that do say Tyler Higbee, because I'm on board with Kevin, I'm not going to say he's going to be anything like he finished. But if you're so high on all these targets, then the quarterback should be good. But again, I don't go against Kevin being against Goff because we've seen like some mediocre play, but I'm on with Goff in 2020.
Yeah, I hear
you. We got something here. Hang on. There we go. I got out of his date.
Hey, there we go.
And he said, "What's up, guys?"
Yeah.
It's one of our league mates from another league.
Boy, getting away, man. The other thing about that, when people like talk about Jared Goff, like I'll totally admit, like I don't really like Jared Goff that much either, but I love Sean McVay, so sign me up for whoever the hell his quarterback is. Like I don't even care. So it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a good year. And oh man, yeah, I love you. If this was a show that who are you targeting this year, that would be
2018 Goff. That's who you're targeting, says Hartman.
I just want to make it clear. I don't hate Jared. I just don't.
No, I know.
It's a neutral relationship. Me and Jared, I have him on teams, but he kind of screwed me last year a little bit. But I'm just
there it is.
I'm here. I'm not a hater. I just don't know if I want him. I don't know if I value him that high. But I mean, Daniel Jones is going ahead of him. I don't know what you guys think of Daniel Jones technically on Fantasy Pros. So I could see him going ahead. I don't think I'd take Jones over Goff. Like I like Goff. I just don't like him in that upper tier.
Goff was like Team Pepto-Bismol last year. Like the dude had some monster games, would win you weeks, and then just come take a dump on your front lawn. The next week. So, I mean, that guy was
until they went to 12 personnel. You look at those last 5 weeks. I hate to keep pimping my own pod, but I just did another take it or leave it on Jared Goff, and I went over all this. And like once they switched over to 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He was averaging, I think it was like 21 points a week or something around there. I don't know. I can get behind Kevin saying like, okay, as long as he has him above Daniel Jones, then I think we're fine. But
I don't have him below. It's not. I like to win. Right. I don't like to lose money.
And with that, you can take it or leave it, John said. Okay, exactly. So we're going to slide over, and I feel like this conversation will be similar to the last one, but different. We're going to go to back to Nick, and we're going to go with Rob Gronkowski. Gronk, easier to say.
Gronk, yeah. I didn't even realize until like about 2 minutes ago, looking at my notes, that I had 2 Buccaneers on here. And to be honest, I've been a Buccaneers fan since 2020, so I don't know why I got 2 guys on here. With Gronk, I wrote down ADP tight end 9. I've seen him in personal leagues, like home leagues, go kind of early for tight ends. 2018, 13 games, 2016, 8 games, 2013, 7 games, 2012, 11 games. Those are some of the game splits he's had. I foresee him being like that Jared Cook. Like maybe he's not getting 6 receptions, but he's going to be heavily touchdown dependent for the Bucks. I also can see him being a decoy at times. All eyes are on Gronk in the red zone, and they're not even targeting him. So I think a lot of guys are drafting for name recognition versus what he's going to give you. I'd rather draft later and take like a TJ Hawkinson, Mike Gesicki, Jonnu Smith, Chris Herndon, Irv Smith Jr. I'd rather go with one of those guys than like pay for Gronkowski just to be like, I got Gronk back and we want, the Hall of Fame Gronk. I hope he's going to be that Hall of Fame Gronk. I just don't think it's going to be the case. And I see him more as a decoy than a field threat on a consistent basis. So I'm out on Gronkowski and not the Buccaneers for whatever reason. So
I don't think we need to beat that. I don't think we need to beat that up more than his body's been beat up over the last several seasons. So
well done.
And we're going to keep beating the same drum. 3 damn tight ends in a row. Mark Andrews. Do we have any more tight ends on this sheet? Can we wrap Mark Andrews and Derek
we actually do
this together? Because I think it's really about the same theme, or can we add our extra bullet points?
Jared Cook, the argument for that is what was said. I mean, ADP. So that's it. Done.
All right. So there, Kyle's fourth one's done. Boom. Let's go back to Mark Andrews then.
It's the same thing. I mean, it's not even necessarily you can draft them there, but you're drafting them over all these guys: AJ Brown, Leonard Fournette, Cooper Kupp, Jonathan Taylor, Tyler Lockett, Keenan Allen. I mean, I guess technically it is the ADP, but I just you can say whatever number you want to say. I just don't want to draft them over those guys.
You want to fill up those. You need one tight end. You need multiple running backs, wide receivers. You want to take advantage of those and just take the shot at the streamer later.
I feel like we all are, at least in this group. I want to grab my tight end like round 13 or later.
Right.
That's basically what I'm looking to do. I love Travis Kelce, but I will not pay his price. I don't love Kittle as much as most, but I'm definitely not paying his price. And then I'm definitely not paying Mark Andrews tight end 3 and 35th overall. And I already named the players, so I'm not doing it.
Here's a bonus question for you. So people who play in 10-team leagues. Not super flex, not tight end premium, just your basic vanilla 10-team league. Probably has 1 flex, probably has 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, maybe a 3rd wide receiver. Are you more apt to go with a stronger wide receiver, quarterback, or tight end or a quarterback there in those first couple rounds? Grab a Kelce in those kind of rounds and have that advantage, or is it still load up on the guys?
It's best player available.
Not for me. It's the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same. Okay. Just checking. Some people subscribe to that, and some people don't because they figure they have an extra round to condense. They can probably sneak in an extra running back, with that. So.
Well, this will be another little hot take, but I have Andrews still as my tight end 5 this season. I think most people are moving him up to tight end 3 or even higher, but I still have him. So, regardless, even in a 10-team league, even in an 8-team league, if you're drafting him at tight end 3, to me, it's still too high.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Tight end 5 is Hayden Hurst. Got it wrong.
You wrong.
I'm still not taking him at the tight end 5 price. So he is one that I actually probably would reach for in the 7th, 8th round, though, because I think his potential is higher. But we will not go into that because that is not this show. All right. Mark Andrews. We're going to slide over to Kyle and Adam Thielen. You got a Thielen?
Man, I just don't get it. I absolutely do not get that. He has gone down a couple spots in ADP. He's going wide receiver 13 right now. But to me, I just think his upside is really.
Who else are they throwing the ball to the 4 times they throw it to?
It doesn't matter. They had no one last year. Thielen missed time last year. Stephon Diggs, 94 targets. Stephon Diggs, 94 targets. They still have Irv Smith. They're going to be working this offense. They spent a 1st-round pick on Justin Jefferson. There's not a ton of options there. I get it. There's also only 450 pass attempts sitting out there for the taking. This is still Gary Kubiak offense. I don't care. It's Kevin Stefanski leaving. That was Kubas running this offense. It was doing what Zimmer said. So for me, Thielen is just a guy that he's shown some nice touchdown potential. We've seen some big seasons from him. He needed 140 plus targets in those seasons in order to put up those numbers. And it was a fun ride. And I love the story, but he won't be a player that I own because there is I have him outside my top 25. I just don't want any piece of this Vikings passing offense when you talk about Adam Thielen and the price of paying a whatever set third rounder even for him. I just don't see the upside that a lot of other people see, and it's just limited opportunities with the targets that I don't think he will see compared to the other guys that I think are slam dunk 120 targets in the bag. So I'm not going to pay that price tag with Adam Thielen. A lot of the same thing. It's him and Odell Beckham Jr. are the same argument for me. They're kind of tied together because they're both dealing with guys that, Kevin Stefanski coming over from Minnesota. It's just offenses that I just do not think are going to throw the ball. And you're sitting there with, Robert Woods going after him, Cooper Kupp. Those are guys that are going to be in an offense throwing it a ton. Calvin Ridley. 600 plus pass attempts in those offenses. So I'm just going to pass on Thielen when he's sitting there at the top of the book.
Okay. All right. Yeah, especially when you got to take him 30 by ADP, which is middle of the third round. It's probably going to be your first wide receiver, and you're going to guys that may not get the ball a ton. So, or he just might get peppered, but we shall see.
We'll see. Hopefully he does. That'd be great.
One out of the other. One out of the other is going to happen. All right. Here's a guy that just broke out on the scene after 5 years. He had the perfect scenario. I can't say he has the perfect scenario this year. That's Mr. Devontae Parker, the taller or faster Alshon Jeffrey, I think he was termed by Jay Cuddy at one point. But at 50 off the board, if he repeats what he did last year, that's fantastic. You did great. But I don't think you can count it at all. You don't know if Fitz is going to be the quarterback at all, if he's going to be a quarterback half the season, the whole season. You don't know. You don't know what the rookie quarterback's going to come in and look like when he comes in. You do like the fact that there's not a lot of competition on the field. It seems to be dwindling as people are opting out, things like that. But I'm not banking on that fifth-year breakout. Anybody else loving Parker or not loving Parker? Or does anybody love Parker?
No, not at all.
All right.
I think real quick, the splits are for real, man. Without Preston Williams, with Preston Williams, 8 games, 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. Without Preston Williams in 8 games, 800 yards and 5 touchdowns. Like, let's be real here. So yeah,
Preston, I'll just take this yardage and I'll take it to my house.
Beneficiary of an injury.
Yeah, exactly. So keep an eye out for him on the waiver wire. Keep an eye out with the quarterback situation, and just don't draft him. That's all. Just don't draft him. All right. I'm going to go back up to the top and let's see if Kevin doesn't get beat up as much this time as last time or 2 times ago, whatever that was. I don't know. Got a little bloody for a minute somewhere in there, but we're going to go with Cooper at 31 off the board.
Yeah, so this isn't actually really about ADP to me. It's just about I worry about his lack of consistency.
Yeah.
There's some things that kind of popped out to me when I was looking over Cooper, and I don't really own a lot of Cooper anyway. But for one, Michael Gallup averaged more targets than he did last year. That kind of makes me nervous because they add CeeDee Lamb. So obviously, and I love CD. So I know that they're going to take away some targets there. I'm a big Tony Pollard guy. I think Pollard's going to be great for us. And I think in McCarthy's offense, they're going to find ways to use him. So there goes some more targets. Zeke, obviously. And then you got all those different things. And one thing that I saw last night that I really liked, I'm going to steal from him, but Chase Vernon was talking about Cooper. And he was talking about how last year, 9 of his games fell outside the top 20 when he faced a real cornerback, a real good, actually top 10 cornerback of teams. And so when you look at our schedule this year, which it makes me sad as a Cowboys fan, but we're playing the Rams. So you got Jalen Ramsey. You're going to have the Seahawks. You're going to have the Browns, Denzel Ward. You have the Cardinals. You have Steelers. Ravens, the Vikings, the 49ers, and even the Falcons and Eagles, they all have great shutdown corners. So what worries me is Cooper is going to really struggle in those games, and there goes his consistency again. So you're drafting this guy probably as your wide receiver 2, I'd assume, probably wide receiver 2. And there could be 9 or 10 games where you don't know what you're going to get out of this guy in terms of targets, target share, volume, especially with the athletes around him. He's got CD and all those guys. I love Dak, and I'm a Cowboy guy, but I just don't know if you want to draft him just because you just don't know what you're going to get for him. I'd rather get Galladay as my second receiver, even DJ Moore, if you can get those guys like around there. And just not a big fan of Cooper. I just don't know exactly where you would want to maybe take him.
Best ball. Next question. Oh, damn. John's shaking his head no.
Hey, and even last year he struggled down the stretch, and that's a real thing. And I know he had over almost 1,200 yards last year, but he also had over 200 yards against the Packers defense that was terrible. So, like I said, he does blow out and he does do those games, but at the same time, you're just not getting the consistent numbers that you'd like to see.
All right, John, you were the only one not shaking your head yes, and you were the one who fired back at my best ball comment. So you got to take it or leave it for us there? John?
Oh, we cut out for a second. Sorry. Yeah, I'm back. All right. Yeah, I don't know if we have enough time to actually go over how wrong Kevin is here. So
and the bloodbath is back. We have time. We have this quarter called overtime.
But I think you already know what I'm going to say at this point. But I did a take it or leave it about Amari Cooper.
I guessed it right. Damn, awesome.
Oh man. No, but I mean, basically, like he was injured. He had like 3 major injuries last year, and so everyone's all hyped up on he can't play against the best corners in the league. Except for you, if you look at last year, he went up against the best corner in the league, and he didn't have like a 40-point game or anything, but he had like a 17.5-point game or 17.5-point game. So get out of here with that whole he can't compete. Like, he's one of the best wide receivers in the league. When a player goes for 3 MRIs and multiple X-rays in one season, he's not healthy. Yeah. Okay, like he's not healthy. He was going for MRIs, and we're waiting, for the season or for the week for the news to come out that week, and it was like, oh, he's getting an MRI. Oh, it came back inconclusive. Like, okay, but he still went and got an MRI because he knew he wasn't right. It wasn't like enough to shut him down for the season, but he still wasn't right. And so
not enough for surgery either. So whatever it is, does he re-aggravate it?
Well, one of them was a contusion. He took a shot to the leg. So that's not really something that you would normally need surgery for. It's just more, time and that kind of thing. Obviously, like in Tyler Lockett's case, he had a contusion and it became compartment syndrome, and he almost had to have surgery because of that. But Amari's wasn't, quite as bad, but it still was just on top of he had a knee injury, and then he also had plantar fasciitis, I believe. So it's just nothing that you want to deal with as a wide receiver who's running on your legs, and he still finished as a top 12 wide receiver.
Okay.
So why aren't you drafting him as a top 12 wide receiver? I don't get it.
How high are you taking him?
I mean, I'm perfectly fine with where he's going. I'm all about ADP. I'm all about value. So to me, drafting him at wide receiver 12 is a value because I think he'll be higher than that, assuming health. Which, I mean, that's all we can do at this point. So that's what I would be doing. I don't necessarily want to draft him that much higher, but I mean, we just talked about Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen's going one spot ahead of him. Give me Amari Cooper over Adam Thielen at this point.
Do you worry at all though about? I mean, let's say you're assuming he was injured in certain times, and you brought up that he did have those check-ins with the doctor and everything. Do you worry about the inconsistencies though when you're going to get I'm looking down the list. 1.3, 6.8, 2.9, 6.4 weeks. I mean, the 39.6, this is one of my leagues against Green Bay, phenomenal. But then very next week, 1.3. So what bugs me about him is like the inconsistency. We saw it in Oakland where he wasn't always phenomenal. Chalked it up to quarterback play, but I think now hey, some guys are high on Jarwin. Some guys think CeeDee Lamb is the best wide receiver in this class, and he's going to step in. Michael Gallup's a monster. If we chalk up this inconsistency with, hey, there's more target competition, that's my only reason that I'm with Kevin a little bit on this, I guess.
So I'm gonna say exactly.
I'm back enjoying the boxing match. That's all. So I'm good.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't know if we had enough time. I'm sorry. I brought it up, but so I'm gonna say exactly what I said on my take it or leave it. And these are his weeks. Like, these are his weekly points. 14.3, 26.1, 7.0, 41.2, 31.5, 25.1, 8.3, 13.9, 13.4, 13.7, 37.4, 9.0, 16.1, 17.1. Oh, wait, those aren't his weeks. Those are Chris Godwin's weeks. Chris Godwin is going as the wide receiver 6 at 18 overall, and Amari Cooper is going as the wide receiver 12 at 31 overall. So, we've seen it with Tyreek Hill. We've seen it with Chris Godwin. We've seen it with a lot of other wide receivers. Players are not always consistent, and consistency is kind of overrated. I mean, I want Amari Cooper to score me 40 points and win me that week. And, he had at the very least 8, I don't remember exactly what it was, but he had 8 like top 12 wide receiver weeks and then a lot of those were the number 1 or like at least in the top 3. And he won you those weeks. I want those weeks. That's what I want. And so, even taking the injuries out of it, just last year, I want those weeks that he had, and I want to win my weeks because of that.
All right. We're going to slide away from Amari Cooper.
You have to, man. You have to buy back to that in, man. That's all I'm saying. Like, it's 100% consistency. It's 100% about that. If you can't stomach that, then 100% do not take him, because he's not a target monster. He will not be, regardless of how many weapons they have in this offense. So he's boom bust. But because he doesn't run a 4.2 40, no one thinks of him like that, because he's not Deshaun Jackson. Well, in fantasy, he kind of is, so I totally get, both sides of it. And I'll just throw that out there as somebody that is Cooper ranked high. It's because I don't value consistency as much as some people. So if you do not take him.
That's a good point. I think draft strategy is a big thing for people too, because like you just said, boom bust can win you guys weeks. I'm very different. I want a guy like Robert Woods instead, who doesn't score a lot of touchdowns but gets a massive target volume. It just depends on your preference in guys, and that's what separates us in leagues and everything. So I think seeing both sides of it's important for people listening, because you can be this guy or that guy and be good at that. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. All right, so we have 3.5 players left. I said half on purpose. And not because the next guy is only half as tall as most quarterbacks. But that was unintentional, but I love it. I'm going to swing over to you. Nick, with Kyler Murray.
I can't make that joke because I'm like 5'9". So
yeah, I was wondering as I said it. I'm like, I'm gonna take some flack for this, maybe. But.
So Kyler Murray, I think I got him. I think I have him like 6 or 7 for. I think I have him 6 for 2020. He's going to be good. I just am against the overhype, because I see him drafted as the 3rd quarterback in leagues I've been in off the board, and guys are trading like crazy things for him in super flexes, but. This past year, he's a top 10 quarterback as a rookie. Here's some of the things I wrote down that are some red flags. Obviously, he has DeAndre Hopkins now. I think that's where he got even more hype. But 6.9 yards per attempt, 15th in the league for yards, 24th in completed air yards per pass attempt, 26th in completed air yards per passing completion. Number 3 in bats, which might have to do with your height thing over there. Number 7 in passes thrown away. Number 9, according to Pro Football Reference, in bad throws. And number 21 in touchdowns. So I think the reason I'm avoiding him is not because I think he's going to be bad, but I think that we got to look a little bit deeper sometimes than, hey, this guy just got a great wide receiver, and he's going to go automatically up to QB3. Look at Baker his first year, and then look at Baker the next year. I'm not comparing the two because I cannot stand Baker Mayfield, but I'm saying with Kyler Murray, I just have him behind Dak Prescott, Wilson. I even have him behind Stafford in my rankings. And I'm not buying into him being the number 3 guy off the board for drafts right now. And I think that just because you add DeAndre Hopkins doesn't mean that DeAndre Hopkins is going to have DeAndre Hopkins targets and they're going to throw the ball as much as you're expecting them to just because they had one wide receiver. So I think he's going to be good, but I don't think he's going to be as good as the hype has right now. So that's just me, and I'll probably get a lot of stick for that. But
I think we'll go easy on you. So here's a question for you. If you are a guy who doesn't like to stream, you don't want to pay the top 2 price, are you willing to take the Dak, the Kyler, if you can get him in the 4th round, and hopefully not have to stream the whole year. If you're the guy that doesn't pay enough attention, you're probably not going to win anyway. But if you don't pay enough attention that you want to sit there and stream, is that 4th round or 5th round? No, he's ADP is 5th round right now, 55. Yeah, so that's middle of the 5th round. You've already got 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs that are strong, and you can grab a solid 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers that are strong. And you can grab a solid quarterback. Nobody's buying in. I mean, I'm not doing it myself, but
no,
I think I actually started the whole late round quarterback thing before it was actually cool. But I mean, obviously Zach Reason actually.
Yeah,
I'm not saying I put it out there. I didn't even have a pod at that point. I'm just saying I started doing it.
Sure.
But that being said, I have Kyler Murray, and once again with the hot takes, I guess that's what I do. I have Kyler Murray as my number 1 quarterback this season, and so
you will take him in the 5th round.
I'm taking him in the 5th round. Yeah, I'm you're talking about the 4th, the 3rd, maybe not. And in Superflex leagues, he's going at 9th overall, and I'm not taking him there. But in the 5th round of a redraft, yeah, I'm probably going to take him there.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I don't usually do it, but I'll eyeball a strong quarterback in the 5th, 6th round if they're just sitting there and it just seems like a steal of a price. And because it gets a little garbagey in that 5th round, there's some good stuff around it. But if you can lock up a stud, a little tempting sometimes. A little tempting. All right.
Definitely.
We have 2.5 players left on the board. We have Mr. Hype Man himself, Mark Ingram, over at Monocle.
All right, so back over to me. This one is actually the only one it's not really an ADP thing. I really don't have an issue with his ADP as far as where he's going for running backs.
And the 3rd?
He's running. Well, I don't.
Overall.
Yeah, running backs, for running back 22 is where he's going, and I don't hate that, but I have a feeling he's going to start off hot and then he's going to fade away as J.K. Dobbins takes that. J.K. Dobbins is one of my biggest, even in redraft. I want to draft him everywhere, redraft, dynasty, best ball, anywhere, literally, and so. Basically, what I'm seeing is you're drafting him at running back 22, and yeah, he might end up as the running back 22, but towards the end of the season, he's not going to be giving you anything remotely close to what you want because J.K. Dobbins is going to have taken over that backfield, and so that's kind of my whole point. Sometimes it's not about I said that my big thing is ADP, but sometimes it's not about the ADP. It's necessarily what do you feel like they're going to do throughout the season. And so I don't see him being the number 1, the lead back in that backfield at the end of the year. And guess what? That's when we're playing for championships. So that's what matters to me.
Okay. I think he's a little exciting, but yeah. If you don't have him at the end of the year when you need that championship, unless you grabbed his backup, you might be in some trouble. All right, Kyle already spent his 4th pick on Jared Cook.
Don't draft that guy.
There's just too many cooks. Too many
cooks.
So that happened.
What a dumbass thing that is. Nobody gets it. It's so stupid. All right, never mind. If you need anything to waste 10 minutes of your life, just YouTube too many cooks. Everybody's on YouTube already. Too many cooks. Put it in your queue.
Yeah,
thank you later.
Just in the queue.
After
all right.
Person 8, I think I have to. That was pretty good.
I'm gonna go with these last 1.5 people here. I'm gonna start with the half, and that is drafting kickers and defenses before if you even have to have one in your damn league. I'll take them 1 round early at the very end. I won't wait till the very last round if I can steal the top 1. But outside of that, I'm waiting till the last 2 rounds. I was sitting here looking at the ADP when I was doing this, and I saw in the 7th round the San Francisco defense going, and I was like, hell no. So that's the half tip there for you because they're starting to flush out of leagues, I think, more and more. And then my last guy, Raheem Mostert, also known as Raheem Nostert, because you're not going to start him on the right week. Now, don't even shake your head at me. I'm sure you did a take or leave it on it, but I don't doubt for a second that he is uber talented. I don't doubt for a second that he's on a team that wants to run the ball all damn day long. I don't doubt the fact that his old butt can do it. What I doubt is, will they use him consistently? Will they throw Coleman in there? Will they throw the third back in there? Whose week is it going to be? And that's a rough guess. And that's what annoys the piss out of me. Anybody disagree with any of that? John, anyone else first? Anyone else first?
Yeah, I've talked way too much. Let somebody else.
I don't agree that if he's uber talented. I mean, yeah, the NFL misses, but 5 teams that they all missed. It's Kyle Shanahan offense. It's kind of the same thing I joked about with Jared Goff. Like, it's a perfect run scheme. It's a team that's dedicated to running the ball a ton. So talent wise, I don't think he's an extreme talent. Give me Tevin Coleman 5 rounds later with this, in my opinion, the same amount of upside with the same amount of question marks, and I'll take that dart throw and see what happens. But
same coach.
I'm not a Mostert guy. He's in that range with the Connor, Bell, Gordon, he's right on the edge of that. Like, I'll see you later. I'm drafting right.
Yeah, so I'll take Connor all day over him. I'll take the guy who should be the main running back, if not the only running back in a team that loves to use a workhorse. Granted, he might get hurt and not stay on the field, but I'll take that over a guy that may not play that week.
Mm-hmm. If Connor's 100% healthy, you're not worried about McFarland or Snell.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Mostert, I mean, they got all these running backs on their depth chart that we've seen in the past be pretty good. I mean, there's probably 10 running backs on that roster right now. I mean,
don't forget use check.
That's going to be like what John said before. Could be a boom or bust thing. If you hit it, you hit it. But if not, you can be in some trouble for taking them kind of early. So
yeah, it'll probably be like Sammy Watkins on your bench in week 1, then put him back in week 2. That was the problem. Go ahead, John. Beat us up, buddy. I see the mic's back on. He's ready to go.
I'm not even gonna beat you up. I'm just gonna. The only issue I have with it is you're talking about James Conner versus Raheem Mostert, except for James Conner's going at 42 overall and Mostert's going at 60 overall. So I mean, you could easily go stud running back, stud wide receiver, Mostert. And at that point, you have Mostert as your third running back or your flex spot, and you have at the very least 4 studs and then Mostert. So it's not like you're drafting him as your running back too, and that's the only issue I really have with it.
Sure. So I'll flip off that, and I'll say you are correct there. There's a 2-round difference in those two.
Sorry,
I'll take Robert Woods.
Tier of running backs, I'm not touching. Sorry.
Okay. I'll take Robert Woods or Terry McLaurin 2 picks earlier, or probably even Dave Montgomery or Devin Singletary 2 picks later.
I think it was Kyle that said it earlier, but that's where I want to be drafting my wide receivers. So I don't even hate you saying that I don't want to take Mostert because that's around where I want to be taking my wide receivers anyway.
Yeah,
so it's not the end of the world, but comparing Connor and Mostert, I wasn't happy with that.
I was using the data I had quickly in front of me.
No, I get it, man. Sometimes, honestly, there's times where you look at it and then 30 seconds later you look at it and wait, something changed. It's nope, I just had another drink. That's all.
Oh, damn.
I didn't know that gap, to be honest with you guys. That's a huge gap.
Yeah. It's only 2 rounds, buddy. It's only 2 rounds. It's only 2 early rounds that matter. All right. Well, I think that about does it. I think we're in the overtime. Yeah. I think we had a lot of fun with that show. I think Kevin's going to get some bandages.
Hey, I'm good. What are you talking about? I'm fine.
He's a Jared Goff jersey for next week.
I needed him to do well. I needed to win. The only problem in that league, I have Trubisky as my second quarterback. So I'm. My life. That league, I'm rebuilding.
That's what I would call it too. It's all good, man.
All right. Well, somebody just threw out a fun damn fact that we're going to end the show on, and that fun damn fact is that there is football in 16 days. Let's go, gentlemen. And if you're listening to the replay, that's only 12 days away. That's freaking exciting. Before we go, gentlemen, before I have you guys depart, Jay Hart says, nice show, guys. Wish I could have seen it all. And Fun Show says, Jaden Cupers. That's your buddy, isn't it, over there? John? No? Somebody's buddy.
Not me. So.
Show.
Well, you're going to have to just inherit him then. Jaden, you're my buddy now.
Actually, you know what? I didn't see who it was, but I do have a Jaden friend on here, so maybe it was him.
There we go. All right.
I've never learned his last name. I call him MG. So if it is him, I apologize, and it's definitely one of my friends.
All right. Go around the board one time. Let people know where you can be found. Kuipers. All right, I tore up your name. Sorry, Kuipers. Go around the room. Let me know where you can be found. And John, you're first.
Once again, I'm at Monocle Dynasty or at Dynasty Coach A. I don't really post stuff on Twitter, so you can just go ahead and follow the Monocle Pod. I don't really care. Okay, now I'm looking at the picture. It's definitely Jaden. Okay, it's MG. Sorry, that's he
disowned you
love me
live.
he disowned me live. That was no es bueno. But once again, I run the Monocle Dynasty podcast, the Take It or Leave It podcast, which I think I might have mentioned once or twice tonight, and then and then also the Debbie Devotional, which we'll actually have a Debbie pod coming out here this week. So not a lot of Debbie stuff going on
for one of those.
That'd be really cool. I mean, that'd be really cool. I don't want to take over the whole thing. So that's me. Find me there and take a listen.
All right, Nick.
Just quick note. I'll take your friend if you don't want him.
It looks like you can have him because I lost.
You've been disowned.
I'm just trying to build the followers, but no, it's Nick at P2W Fantasy, just on Twitter at P2W Fantasy. We put all our content out there. Live streams, articles, we got a YouTube page, have our podcast, always posting out some stuff. And Bob, thanks again for having me on with some great guys here.
Awesome. Absolutely. Kevin, over to you, bud.
Yeah, so, just take a look at my stuff on Hammercast. I'm just now finishing up my Dynasty Mount Rushmore articles I've been doing. I just finished my wide receivers, and now I'm going to go to tight ends, which is my favorite position to kind of scout and do those things. So you can go there. If you're a coach, Beyond the Bounce podcast we started, if you want to listen to that, that'd be cool. And then other than that, I've just started working on my Debbie rankings for my freshman class next year. So I'm looking at high school tape right now and going through all the high school guys and doing all that. So that'll be coming out at some point.
Awesome. I get in trouble every time I say something like that, but you actually have a Debbie show. Kyle's like, what the hell?
No.
Over to you, Kyle.
Well, I was going to do a podcast with Bob, but I don't know about this. Man.
He's a liability.
Yeah. Yes. You can follow me
at
Fantasy
Pro stuff behind my picture, so I'm good.
Yeah.
Nick, steal that one too.
Yes. Oh my God. All right. You can follow me on Twitter at KyleFFFella. You can check out the Fantasy Football Smackdown twice a week. Right now, I'm going to be doing some collaboration stuff with Bob in the season. So looking forward to that. And just follow me on Twitter. That's where you find. I'll repost articles, other guest appearances, crap like that. It's fun. Love talking football. So hit me up anytime. And as Nick said, thanks for having me, Bob. This is a lot of fun.
All right, guys. I really appreciated you guys having the show. Hope everybody watching, listening live and the replay is enjoying it. Following my guests and subscribing to the show and leaving comments. It's very appreciated. I can be found on Twitter at Bob's3Toad, on YouTube at Bob's 3-Toed Warriors, and live streams will be Tuesdays from now on. Enjoy them; they're a good time. And then here I laid out the show schedule for you. So with that, for all the guys here, I'm going to say soon enough, very soon enough. I've just been told 16 days, from now, you'll be able to hit the waiver wire, set your lineups, and dominate your opponents. But until then, we will see you. Some amount of days. Hashtag math on the calendar. What?